is if we start with a minor thing, he can usually determine if an immediate course of action is for good or ill, what the short-term ramifications of it are. What might help us focus our line of questioning is to ask something like, um, would it be a good idea for us to go straight to Elysium now? Like, what would happen if we went straight there now?
Oh, okay. Yes.
I think we should spend a day here, speak with Bartleby, and get as much information to him as we can. But for now, let's see what we can work with.
Okay.
Bartleby,
Sounds good.
we might have a trip coming up to the Azamar and Celestial City of Elysium. If we head out there tomorrow, what will happen? Bartleby rolls his shoulders. You can hear lots of cracking of his old weary bones. He waddles back up to the altar, grabs the bowl, spins it round again, and then puts his hands on top of the stone hand and pushes it down. And the stone seems to immediately soften and bend like it's an actual person's arm and dunks in. There doesn't seem to be like a lever mechanism. It just seems to be like the stone has become organic. He dunks the fingers into the water, and the water starts turning all kinds of psychedelic colors. As he does this, he throws his head back, his eyes burst with light, and this otherworldly voice booms out of his mouth. At the same time, Aigner, your eyes glaze over, and you start to see spiders crawl all over the walls. You feel darkness envelop around you, and you see before you a spider coming up into your field of vision larger than the rest and start spraying webs all around you. And you find yourself paralyzed. You can't move. This web goes round and round and around, and a more sinister voice than the one that calmly told you that this is not the way to get your power back says to you, accept my gift, and you will have power beyond imagining. Accept it fully, Aigner. You hear Zarkon in the back of your mind scream at you, but you can't make out the words that he's saying. Eridu, you hear Bartleby say, the forces of darkness are rising, the dragons march forth, fire, fire in the streets, the harbors fall, ships sail, death comes to the land. That is where we will not only end the session, but end the episode.
Oh, damn.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me get back here. Boom, we are back. Yeah, so that's pretty cool thing that we're capable of doing. I really like the idea of doing the flashbacks. But yeah, that's what happened. Epic cliffhanger, super gnarly, and we are going to pick up the story at exactly the moment where that ended. Sometimes we do downtime in between episodes so that our characters can, like do some training or whatever it is that they do in their off time. But this time, there is no downtime. We're going to keep this dramatic tension going. So at that, I've got a little something that I want to read. Bartleby's words ring out through the chamber in a deep, booming voice that was not his own. Finishing his proclamation, his eyes close, shutting off the beams of light that were bursting out. At this moment, a pained sound is heard. It is Aigner grunting in agony. His eyes are screwed shut, and he is clutching his head in both hands. Before anyone can reach out to him, Aigner lets out a ragged scream, and his eyes open, looking wild and desperate like a caged wolf. He drops the burlap sack he had taken from the settlement and flings his arms out, yelling at the tapestries around him. Is this what you want from me? Huh? Is this what you want? That said, Agner rips off the ring from his finger and throws it across the chamber. It whizzes by Bartleby and the basin and clatters on the stone floor. Very rapidly, Agner's lower body shifts and transforms. His legs are replaced with the abdomen of an enormous spider, and his monstrous form is now towering above you, Eridu, and Lauren. Still looking at the tapestries, Agner draws his longsword and screams some more, but his regular speech is replaced with the guttural sounds of Undercommon. Then he looks down upon you. Lauren throws her hands back to her daggers, but hesitates in shock. Suddenly, Agner freezes in place, with his sword arm raised high in the air, and a twisted look on his face. In the corner of your eye, you can see another figure, who seemingly appeared out of thin air. He is a human of average build, with blonde hair. He is clad in black leather armor and a black cloak. He also has glasses on, but the lenses of them are tinted so dark that you cannot see his eyes. He walks toward you all and speaks in a terse, businesslike tone. Sorry. He walks to you all and speaks in a terse, businesslike tone. Good day to you all. I'm Agent Dunham, and I'm with the International Spellcasting Certification Bureau. He pulls from his cloak a flap of black leather. At first it is blank, but then glowing letters write themselves on the surface, reading Raish Dunham, ISCB, along with an official-looking seal. And, yeah, he is standing right before you, Eridu, holding the soul black flap.
Agent Dunham, why are you here?
I'm here because you have a Class B unregistered monstrosity in your presence.
To the best of my knowledge, this issue has already been cleared up by another of your agents.
Oh, yes. I know about that. Agent Vishun was dispatched. She was assigned to your case. And then she went rogue. So the issue has not been resolved. And for your information, Agent Vishun made some very grave errors and broke some serious protocols that we must abide by. I'm not of liberty to speak any more about Agent Vishun, but I am the new handler.
Are you at liberty to speak of the failings of others of your agents who have been unable to keep an artifact which contained the soul of a powerful person?
I have no
Something
idea
that-
what I have no idea what you're speaking about.
And clearly your agency is not as competent as it thinks it is.
That's not for you to judge.
When I watch an object that was supposed to be under the care of one of your agents wreak havoc in a small town and tear a man's head from its body, I think it is mine to judge. And you are saying that one of my friends is a monstrosity. Sir, I will take whatever liberties I must with you right now. What are you proposing to do here?
I'm proposing to take custody of your friend Agner.
I cannot allow you to do that.
Well, I'm afraid there's not much you can do about that. This matter is settled. He's an unregistered monstrosity. I have protocols to follow.
Do what you must, and I will do what I must.
As he speaks to you, he also takes from his pack. He's got a small black leather pack with him, and he pulls out this roll of cloth and a little jar with a brush, and he unfurls the cloth. It seems to be, you know, just kind of like a little sheet of paper, maybe bigger than a regular sheet of paper. And the cloth on one side, you can see it's covered with elvish writing in this very dark, glossy ink. And on the other side of it, he is taking the brush and dipping it into the jar, and he's like brushing onto the back of it. And he says, "Yes, I'll follow my orders, and you will do what you must. But I'm very serious that your friend is an unregistered monstrosity. He must be taken care of. I'm going to take him with me." And at that, he walks over to where Egner is. Oh, actually, hold on. First, sorry, before he walks over to Egner, he stops in front of you, Eridu. He leans onto the floor, and he waves his hand over the stone floor. And as he passes his hand over, more glowing letters write themselves onto the stone floor. And it's this long, complicated series of symbols, some of which you recognize as being like inspired by elvish characters, but then there are other ones that look like a little more constructed. And he says, "If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please consult our Magical Inquiries Department." And then he goes over to Egner, and he slaps the cloth on Egner's abdomen, and it sticks.
With his back turned toward me, I am going to attempt to punch him in the back of the neck.
Okay, you can try that.
I told him I was going to do what I must.
Yeah.
So, I do want to make it clear that I'm opposed to this gentleman.
Make it clear.
And I did not succeed with that first attack roll. That was a 3, so all my bonuses involved is probably going to be somewhere around a 10.
Okay. That.
Yeah, my second attack
Mm-hmm.
is the same logic applies, of 25.
Okay.
24.
Alright, so your first attack will whiff, and then your second attack will come up, and it looks like you're just about to smack him in the head, and then all of a sudden your hand, it seems like it just goes through like this, like a stack of pillows, but there's nothing there. And as your hand sinks deeper and closer to his head, you see this glowing, kind of like all these bands of silvery blue stuff that are like contracting around your hand and holding it and keeping it from hitting his head. And then he simply takes his other hand and places it on your chest, and then just pushes you back.
All right.
And then he takes a stone out of his pouch, and he says, "This is Dunham. Subject 27B is in custody. Fire it up." With his hand on the cloth, he gives you all a nod, and both him and Egner are squeezed impossibly and pulled into either side of the cloth. The cloth itself hangs in the air, folds in on itself, and then disappears.
Oh, damn. I look at Lauren and say, well, I guess there's one thing for me to do. I need to break into that bureau and release my friend.
Oh my goodness. How could you even think to find it? No. How can you even find him?
I'm going to put my hand on the the stone that he had written the elven runes into, the one that was pretty much the contact information, and say, "Who's this?"
Very well. I confess I don't know much about any of this, but I'll do what I can to help.
I will contact you if I know more. First, I must find someone who actually knows a thing or two about magic, and see if we can find a way of tracking this. I have some people.
Very well. Very well.
You also have a lot of things to worry about, given what we came across this last adventure of ours here. You probably need to figure out what's going on at the Trail Guard.
Yes, I'm trying to figure it all out. It's so much of it still doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm scared to go talk to my superiors. There's a conspiracy. There just
You
has
should
to
be
be,
very concerned
Eridu.
about them. They definitely are not to be trusted right now.
I don't know who I can trust then. Who can I trust, Eridu?
I'm gonna put a hand on her shoulder and look into her eyes and say, "You can trust me, and you can trust Agner. That is all I know for sure."
Very well. Very well. Is there somewhere I can go that's safe?
Yes. Go to the Twin Harbors. Find a woman named Emily. She will be outside of a church, and I'll give the details, but I, as a player, don't have them off the top of my head.
Sure. Yeah, you know what's
Yeah,
up there.
Temple of Anesti.
Yeah,
Nasty.
Temple of Anesti. That's the one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Find her outside the Temple of Anesti. She will find a safe place for you.
Very well. Very well. She takes a deep breath. She checks to see that her daggers are loose in their sheaths. And she just takes a moment to just try and get her breathing back to normal. It looks like seeing Agner in that light really shook her up in a big way.
Right.
Bartleby.
So once
What?
she
Oh,
leaves,
sorry.
No, that's okay. Once she leaves, I'm gonna go and pick up the ring.
Okay.
I don't believe Eridu is aware that Zarkon is in the ring.
I don't think so. I think that
yeah.
was a very private Agner thing, but
Mhm.
yeah.
But he does know this ring will suppress the beast in Agner, and he is attempting to hopefully use that to get him out of the prison.
For sure. For sure.
All right.
Are you going to take the burlap sack that had all the stuff from the settlement?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, yes. Yeah, I'll
Yes.
take that and probably give that to Lauren, because that's all stuff that is the implication of this whole adventure in the first place, and ask her to make sure that it gets to Emily.
Okay. Yes, I can do that. And just to be clear, there's a key in there. There's a bottle of some very strong liquor that is some pretty gnarly shit, actually. There's the little wireframe model of the mechanical dragon creature construction, and there's a bunch of papers and schematics. Just to review what's in that bag.
I do think I'll take the bottle, only because I don't know what's in it, and I don't really want to put that in someone's hand if it's something dangerous.
For sure. All right.
But aside from that, everything else she can have.
All right. So if Eridu ever decides to take a drink out of that, maybe Drew, you'll chime in and tell us exactly what that did again.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if it's not wine, Eridu may not drink it.
You never know. He might get a little desperate for a little dranky drank.
I shall pull up the stats and shove
You
them
never know.
in our chat so everyone's got them.
Sounds
Okay,
good. I'm
cool.
gonna add it to my thing here.
Very
Cool.
good. So, Bartleby, throughout this whole thing, it looks like the whole experience of doing the process with the eyes going crazy and the deep voice, it looks like that whole process has physically drained him as well. And while Agner was doing the whole crazy spider monster thing, Bartleby actually went like on the other side of the basin, and he was, he's a small gnome, so he was just trying to hide himself beneath the stone and just like try and get away from Agner. So while you guys have been talking, he's been, dusting off his robes and just taking a look and seeing if all of his tapestries are intact, and then he looks at you, Eridu, and says, "You're all a funny bunch, aren't you?"
I mean, coming from someone who lives alone in a cave and talks to unknown powers, that's quite a compliment.
Well, at least I'm not a crazy spider monster, I tell you that much.
This is very true. However, maybe you can answer a question for me.
Perhaps. I am a little winded.
Then maybe not use your prophetic powers, just a little bit of your own intellect. How would one go about getting inside this, what was it again? Bureau of...
The International Spellcasting Certification Bureau?
That's the one.
I don't know too much about it, I'm afraid. I've been out here being a hermit for quite some time, as you may recall. But from what I know, it's difficult to get in. Their primary mode of transport is teleportation.
Yes, I can see that.
Yes. The easiest way to get in is with a spell, but that's also the most difficult way.
Clearly you have to have some knowledge of them, considering you're out here just giving out sagely advice in communication with some sort of powerful being of magical prowess.
Yes,
and they seem to leave you alone.
I've learned a thing or two about them, but yes, they don't seem to get too bothered with me. This is actually the first time that I've seen an agent in nigh on a decade now.
I won't bother you with consulting your oracles about my success. I'll either or succeed or I'll fail. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Very well. Feel free to come back if you need any more sage advice.
Of course I will. Bartleby,
Very
it was a
well.
pleasure meeting you.
A pleasure as well. All my best to you, and take care of Lauren, will you?
Of course.
She's a sweet girl.
Very much.
Now,
Thank you for your time.
I'm famished. Where are the potatoes?
This is your cave, I have no idea.
No, where are the potatoes? So he goes back into his kitchen area where his pot is already bubbling, and he just starts throwing in like 5 potatoes to boil them, and he is very absorbed in his cooking as you peace out.
All right, yeah, I'm going to head on out and go on back to the Twin Harbors.
Okay, so as you step outside, it is still a gorgeous, glorious day of sunshine. Lauren is actually parked on a stump outside. She hasn't quite left yet, and she's pulling out rations out of her bag and taking little nibbles and just getting herself like psyched up for the trip, And as you go to join her and talk to her, you see a flock of seagulls flying overhead of you. As you look up and admire their pattern flying across the sky, one separates from the flock and dive bombs straight toward you.
Can I catch it? Like deflect missiles? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. It's not that kind of missile. But so as it gets closer, it flaps its wings and sits on a stump opposite you, preens its feathers for a second, looks at you and cocks its head, and then opens its beak. And then out of its beak, you hear Emily's voice. and Emily's voice says, Eridu, this is Emily. I desperately need your help back in Twin Harbor. Please meet me at the Temple of Anesti as quickly as possible.
I'll turn to Lauren and say, it appears that you and I have the same destination. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I believe so. I've never seen a seagull talk before.
It is a thing you must take in stride. I can't say I've seen it either.
I see. I must admit, Eridu, this all is scaring me. The just everything that's happened. I don't know. I just don't know anything anymore.
I'm going to put a hand on Lauren's shoulders and kind of get down to her level and say, for one, Lauren, there are magics in this world, and they're not all meant to be frightened of. Speaking animals is a way that people communicate. I don't travel inside of circles or use it often, so it's not something that I concern myself with. However, you have vowed yourself to the Trail Guard, and they seem to be leaving you out of decisions they make. It is clear that the people you have grown to trust don't share that same level of trust with you. It is time for you to find your place amongst people who share a common goal as you, and the Trail Guard seems to no longer be your place.
I believe
A wind is blowing, Lauren.
Yes. I can feel it, and it does not feel good. I think you're right, Eridu. I cannot trust the Trail Guard anymore, but I can trust you. She rummages through her pack really quick, and she takes off the outer covering Trail Guard uniform, the one that's got the whole emblem and all the colors on it that identify her as such. And she just takes that and she just throws it into the woods. And then out of her pack, she takes a simple, worn set of traveling clothes. They're just like brown and, much more low key. And she puts that on and says, "That feels better."
In unison of like solidarity, I'll also take off the Trail Guard disguise that I was wearing, and return to my not simple clothes, but my kind of worn, fine clothing. And as we set off, I'll also tell her, you've, from what I understand, have known On for a while as well, and I think you can still trust him. I have not seen anything in the time that I've known him to make me believe he is a self-absorbed and harmful person.
I see. Where is On?
I do not know. I do worry a little bit. He has a tendency of seeing the world through strange eyes.
Yes.
But he means the best.
I've always pegged him for an outsider, but I know that he means well.
And in this time, Eridu, after saying that, kind of gets quiet as they travel, and his thoughts drift toward Akram, and he worries a bit because he doesn't share the same level of trust in Akram's judgment that he does with On's after their most recent interactions.
Alton or Akram?
Alton, I'm sorry, I said Akram.
You said Akram every time you meant Alton.
Yeah, Alton,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Akram is a bit dead.
Akram's kind of dead.
Yeah, that's true.
So essentially, you're like second guessing Alton. Yeah.
But doubling down on On.
But
Yeah.
doubling down on and you have no idea, dude.
Not even the slightest.
Not even the slightest. Okay, so at that, Egner's taken away. You've recovered the couple of things from the chamber, said goodbye to Bartleby, and you and Lauren are traveling back to Twin Harbor.
That sounds right.
Yeah, unless there's anything else that you want to mention, we're just gonna kind of hand wave the travel time to get there.
I think we're good with that.
Okay, so we're hand waving, and then boom! All of a sudden, Eridu and Lauren are pulling up to the gates of Twin Harbor. Uh, it seems at first like not a lot has changed since the last time that you were here. There still seems to be a pretty heavy presence of armed guards. If anything, they look to be more well equipped this time around. Up on the battlements, you can see, you know, glinting from shiny new armor on the guards, and you can see hefty, enormous crossbows in their hands as they look down upon you all. But you're not questioned, you are not stopped, you are given access to the city. Eridu knows the way very well to the Temple of Anesti, and as you pull up there, the temple is as you remember it. If anything, it looks to be a little busier. You know, it seems to be that there's more people coming to worship these days. And outside, you see Emily sitting on a bench, looking expectantly at you. As you approach with Lauren, she says, "Eridu, I'm so happy that you've come so quickly. Can you tell me where are the others? Where's On? Where's Egner? Where's Alton?"
Short answer is I don't know. On and Alton went through a portal that took them somewhere that I had no way of finding out, and Agner was taken by the ISCP.
Oh,
He, after hearing and or seeing something that troubled him, he removed his ring, and I'll take the ring out and show her, and turned back into his monstrous form. To which an agent returned and said that he was in violation of something or other.
oh dear. I'm so sorry. Is there anything that can be done?
Only something wildly crazy.
Well, it certainly seems like these are the times for wild and crazy things.
Good. Now, two things. First off, this is Lauren. She is a former member of the Trail Guard, and we have uncovered some very well, not even disturbing, just information that we can't make heads or tails of, but the Trail Guard has kept her out of the interactions that led to the stuff that we discovered, and for that, we are calling into question their trust. Lauren is trying to find her place, and I told her that she could find one among us.
Of course. All are welcome.
Second, I need your help. I need to find someone with some kind of magical properties. I need to break into the bureau. I need to release Akram. There I do. Agner. What are them? Oh my god, I'm a bad kid. Like,
that's pretty good. What's her butt? Emily. As soon as you say you need to break into the bureau, her hand kind of goes to her mouth in shock, and she says, "That's the crazy thing that you want to do?"
yes.
I don't know what to say to that right now, but I want to help. Egner has always been so reliable and so good-hearted. We'll get him. We'll get him back. But let me do some research. Let me see what I can find.
All right. In the meantime, you needed my help with something?
Yes. Desperately.
That's not becoming visible. Sorry, I had to give myself a name tag because Asa couldn't remember people's names, and it's not visible on this camera. But never mind.
If I actually pulled up Zoom and looked at people's names more often, but I don't.
Yeah, but you don't.
I dance around through like the chat and Zoom and my character sheet and Facebook and all kinds of shit when I'm on these streams. So
for real.
So I have multiple devices.
So at that, Emily says, "Please follow me," and she takes you not into the temple, but around the side of the temple. And around the side of the temple, there is this whole area with all these like stone they look like tombstones, but they're like a lot taller, and they have all these names written down on them. And I think I mentioned this was a place that Egner liked to go to be alone. He had this little scene where he was talking to Zarkon in this whole area. There's these nice little flower beds. It's just a very calm, very quiet, peaceful, and kind of place. So she takes you through that all the way to the back, and in the back of this area, it's like you walk through the space between two flower beds, and then there is a wall that is one of the walls to the temple. And then she looks around and finds this one little panel and pushes it in. And there's a sound as the stone lifts up, and there's a secret door. Dun dun dun.
can we take a break?
Tunnel.
This seems like a great break time.
This sounds like it's a great break time. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do a break time.
All right.
Cool. All right, so we'll see y'all in about 10 minutes, and we'll continue with this episode. And I still haven't. We're still trying to like do the big reveal later of all the new everything. So we'll be back in
after
10.
we come back from the break, we'll be able to actually do our intro.
Yeah, exactly. See y'all soon.
All right.
We'll be
Bye.
right. Boom. We are back. Welcome. The name of the game is Voluheen, Winds of War. The name of the episode is a spoiler that I'm not going to give quite yet. And where we last let off, we have just been focusing on Eridu for the moment. It's kind of like the Eridu show. And he finally went back to Twin Harbor and met up with Emily because Eridu needs Emily's help, and also Emily needs Eridu's help. And Eridu and Lauren are being led through this side area of Nezti's temple, and Emily has opened a secret door that is on the side of the temple, and that's where we left off. So you guys walk into the opening, and you find yourselves in a very tight spiral staircase that's made out of stone. And you walk down the spiral staircase, and it seems like, you're going down into definitely a basement area, this hidden area that is underneath the temple. You walk in, and you see a large common room set up. There are lights all over, giving a warm glow. There are kind of like little stones that are set into the wall that are giving off this soft white light. And inside the room, there are several desks and tables that are all filled with just random papers. There's all sorts of there's maps of Twin Harbor, there's maps of Írden, There are also all sorts of other random papers. The place is like messy, but not like messy. It's not being cleaned, but messy. Like there's a lot of activity and planning going on down here. Emily walks across the room, and she goes into another opening that seems to lead into what looks to be like places with beds. And she speaks softly into the corner, and you can't quite hear what she's saying. And around the corner comes none other than Darius Buffo. Walks into the room. And right behind Darius, there walks another character. And can you describe what that character looks like, Drew?
This character is around average height for a humanoid, average build, wearing a flowy robe, but made out of plain material. They've got dark hair and dark eyes, lightly tanned skin. It is a young gentleman who, despite his appearance making him seem almost purely human, is in fact an Azamar, betrayed by the fact that occasionally his eyes will give a weird glint in the light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something very, very interesting about his look that really makes it seem like, oh, he's not quite a human, is he? There's something a little more going on. So Emily looks at Eridu and she says, I'm sorry for the surprise. I really meant to tell you that I've brought in some more help here. I believe you know Darius, and Darius gives you a curt nod, and just he's always got this grumpy face on. Gives you a curt nod, and then she turns to the Azamar and says, "And this is Hilofax. Hilofax, this is Eridu and Lauren."
Charmed.
Nice to meet you. And then I'm going to look at Darius and say, well, maybe you can make this very easy for me. Why don't you bring Agner back? It'll save a lot of time.
I'm sorry. I don't know anything about your friend Agner. The last thing I remember about Agner is that he caused a lot of misfortune. Hit all of you and your friends, caused a lot of misfortune for my family. But I'll have you know that whatever happened to your friend, I had nothing to do with it.
I am sorry. I got mixed up with a different character.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking the bureau guy.
Oh, no. That's Dunham.
His last name was Dunham.
Dunham.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Retract all of that.
All right, retracting.
Eridu has no quaff with Darius.
Okay.
From ruining that one thing that one time.
All right, so backtrack. Is there something that you are going to say to Darius instead of what you said?
Does Eridu know about all that shit that happened in town and what happened with Darius' family? Oh my god, I treated it like he did. Oh, I ran my mouth off to that guy so bad with player knowledge, not character knowledge. Fuck.
Cause yeah, I don't think you were. Yeah, you weren't there.
No,
right?
he wasn't there for any of it aside from the dream with.
Yeah.
Oh man, damn it! I can't retract that now. Asa, forgetting details.
So okay, so I mean, where does it all stand at this moment?
I'm just asking if he he knew about. I'm gonna say that probably on Agner and Alton filled him in with the stuff that happened in that dwarven town.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
I'm going to lean in close to Darius. This Eridu fellow, does he often stand silently, seemingly having an internal monologue going back and forth, deciding what to say?
He's a strange one. That's elves for you.
Having finally figured out what he's going to say, because you're right, elves take a long time to figure out what they're going to do. He looks to Darius and says, I am sorry for the loss of your family.
Well, they're not all dead.
And from what I understand, only one of them, but yes.
Tecker is in a bad way as well. But I wouldn't expect you to really care about that. Thank you for your platitudes anyway.
You're welcome.
This situation is clearly comfortable for everyone. Emily, you've brought this Eridu fellow down into our little sanctum sanctorum. Is there anything that we can do to help?
Yes, I apologize for withholding the details until now, but in Twin Harbor at this moment, secrecy is key. You can't know who to trust. But I've been speaking with Darius at length, and I just hope the others were here. You know, I dispatched several messengers, and I hoped that they would reach Agner, Alton, On, but I greatly appreciate that you were able to make an Eridu. I digress. There's something very mysterious happening in Twin Harbor. There are several ships coming in and out of the port that are unmarked, not running any flags up at all, and no one seems to be making any kind of issue out of it. I smell some kind of conspiracy. I know that there's something sinister going on. There are being shipments made in and out that no one knows what the contents of are being shipped. I've been speaking with Darius a lot about this, and we've been gathering some intelligence. And our intelligence suggests that one of these ships is going to be coming in tonight. And we want to intercept it. It's not supposed to be a dangerous job. Just information gathering, you know? We need to know what is on these ships. We need to know who is piloting them, who is behind all of this. But we want to do it in a way that doesn't tip anyone off. So I have asked the Tranquility crew to help us. I want the two of you, and she specifically points at Halifax and Eridu. And she says, I want the two of you to meet up with the Tranquility at the harbor. And they'll take you off into the coast to the west, where the ship is supposed to be coming from.
What threat do these ships pose to the people of Twin Harbor?
Well, they're not military vessels, that much we can tell. They are trading vessels. Large, able to carry who knows what, but large amounts of who knows what. They've been
with all the drugs running rampant through the city streets and all the new weapons that the guards are carrying, it behooves us to find out exactly what's going on.
Absolutely. I smell a conspiracy. There's just the secrecy of all of it. The fact that you can't even see the crews of these ships. Whenever they come in and dock, there's all the only people that go on the ship are the Twin Harbor dock workers. You can't even see anyone who is operating the ship.
I have experience with ships that do not have captains, drivers, pilots, whatever you want to call them. I might have a bit of an insight into how this is happening.
How so?
Well, Darius, you would know a bit about this as well. When we did some shipments for you, there were ships that were using what seemed to be magnetic runes to guide the ship from one place to another?
Yes, those. It is possible on a much smaller scale. You'll remember that those were small boats, little tiny fishing raft size things.
I'm assuming this is Darius talking.
Yeah, absolutely. The scale that we're dealing with here is much larger and much more troubling. If there is the same kind of magic behind this, it really says a lot of disturbing things.
Well, certainly
I've-
whoever's. Oh, on you go, Eridu.
No, I was gonna say I've seen an influx in magical use a lot lately. It seems that there is some precedent for things changing and shifting in that direction.
I agree. Things seem to be destabilizing in the region. An exacerbation and a scale extrapolation of previously used techniques seems to be ubiquitous. Weapons were always present, they're now larger and more prevalent. People would occasionally get sick, and thanks to the drugs passing through the city, that's happening more and more. Small vessels being magically manipulated to move across the water with very little crew, that being scaled up would make sense given everything else. But it does also present another danger, another thing that could backfire against the townsfolk. We need to find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm. When
Let's go over the details.
yes, when you meet up with the ship, you need to make contact somehow. Try and make contact with the captain and tell him that there's been a delay and that they cannot make port in Twin Harbor. We've been working on some kind of ideas of what to say or how to make that stick, but essentially we just want you to try and keep them still. Try and find as much information as you can and try and delay them for as long as possible.
Is a different team going to be investigating the ship while we delay them?
We're working on it. I've been talking to the members of the Tranquility crew, and there are some that have certain talents that can be utilized.
What do we know about this captain?
The captain of the unmarked vessel that you're going to meet, nothing is known because, like I said, no one has even seen the crew on one of these ships.
All right. Then let's go stop a ship and find a ghost captain.
I don't know what you'll find on there, but we need to find out. I greatly appreciate all of you being willing to take this on.
My mother always told me I should get into divining magic. I should have listened.
Darius will give you all a curt nod, and he'll actually say something nice for once. He'll say, "Be safe. Watch your back."
You as well. So, Eridu, it looks like you and I will be working together this evening.
Yes. Halifax. That is your name.
Hilofax. But you may call me what you wish. So long as I know which name you wish to refer to me as, I shall respond.
I am good with calling you by the name that your mother gave you. Halifax. Tell me a bit about yourself as we walk out.
I would be pleased to do so. I was born, as many of my people are, within the outskirts of Elysium in Celestia. It was a pleasant upbringing, to say the least, and I was taught in the ways of magic as our people knew them. And I find myself in Twin Harbor, for purposes that are my own, as I'm sure yours are yours. Tell me, Eridu, how did you come to be in this fine place?
I have spent much of my time in Twin Harbors, and lived here for a while. I came here as a way of getting away from a past that I was not proud of.
Hmm.
Sometimes our past catches up.
You and I share this in common. I found some things in my heritage a little disturbing, to say the least. So I sought my leave of it. I have also found that several of my people have been moving towards Twin Harbor, some with designs that I don't quite agree with, which is how Emily found me. Emily's got quite an operation going. I hope that it works out well. Endeavors such as these sometimes get quashed, often by betrayers within the circle, sometimes by outside influences that they themselves are trying to rally against. My purpose here, if there is one, is to see to it that that does not happen. That Emily, or whoever seeks the best for the people of Twin Harbor, and indeed this entire region, nay, the continent, it is they that I work for.
Eridu looks as though he's about to reply as they're walking outside of the hidden entrance and through the cemetery and back towards the front of the church. And then he spots someone. Like his eye, he just stops mid sentence and he's just tracking someone. And if you follow his gaze, you see him track a woman as she enters the Temple of Anesdi. And he just kind of gets a crooked smile and says, "Speaking of the past," and runs to catch up with this character.
What a curious elf.
Alright, so Asa, you burst through the doors of the Temple of Anesdi, and some time has passed, and any other worshippers that were there for, the midday service or whatever have filed out, and the temple is pretty much empty except for the woman that you saw walk in, who looks like... Josh, tell us.
Oh, she is a drow. She has the kind of the traditional, like the darker skin with the white hair. She has, she's wearing kind of like very military style garb. Not necessarily a uniform, but just like in nature, that kind of nature of being in the military, but at the same time, it is kind of intentionally sexualized. Not like in the sense that it's like exploitive, but in the sense that like she's like you can tell she's projecting this aura of sexualization as an intimidation factor. She wants people to be uncomfortable with her body so that way she can offset everyone else. And it is obvious by her demeanor, it's not just using her sexuality for intimidation. Everything about her is being a dog of war. And so she walks with purpose. She has this like dark, 100-yard stare, that is kind of checking all points of the room. She's constantly aware of, sounds and sights and everything like that. Nothing's gonna sneak up on her.
So she's definitely aware of Eridu coming through the temple.
Well, it's not like
door.
he was being quiet. She just, and so she, she's walking through, and
who says something first? Is it going to be Theala?
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on. I'm spelling it properly for.
Yeah, I need information. He sent me up.
For sure.
Dang it! What the heck is wrong with?
I know how to spell the name.
Okay.
Okay,
good.
What I was asking is rank.
Oh, right. She's she's still, yeah, you would know her as Major.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah. Once the doors open and he sees her obviously looking at him, he will say, Major Talia Alora. Alora.
Theala.
Aloro.
Theala.
Theala.
Aloro.
Yeah.
Major Theala Aloro. And he will go to place his hand on the butt of his sword in a respectful way. It's not there, but he does rest his hand on the scabbard as though he was part of this.
Yeah. She stops and there's a smirk on her face, and before she even turns around, Pony, what are you doing here?
This is my home now, Grim. Why are you here?
Passing through. I just came here to pray as I go through the city.
I see you have not given up your faith, then.
No.
Very good. Stick with what you believe. It has always done me well.
Yes. What are you doing here?
That is a very long question to answer. In short, I am happy that I've run into you, because I might need your help if you'd be willing to grant it.
I will butt in at this point, actually. Eridu.
Yes.
Yeah. I could not help but overhearing this being a rather echoey chamber and all, but would you mind if I spoke to you privately for a moment? Excuse us, Major.
I did not think you followed me.
Yes. Do you truly think it wise that we invite an outsider along?
Well, I was actually going to ask for her assistance in an entirely different personal matter, but now that you mention it, she could be a great asset to our particular mission.
Brilliant.
I did not intend... Yes. As you see fit, Eridu.
I assure you, Emily will trust my judgment in this situation. Her and I go a long way back, and as do Thalia and I.
Theala.
Theala. I will always say her name wrong. Theala.
Yeah.
I got it in my head, the A and the I, like, reversed.
Theala.
And now I don't have a thing to look at to get it right.
Yeah. Think Thea from Arrow, and then add a la.
All right. Theala. Got it.
Theala, yeah. Okay.
Well, very well, Eridu. If you think Theala will be useful to us in our endeavor, feel free to invite her along.
Thank you. I appreciate your trust in my judgment. As you are someone who does not know me, I understand that it must be difficult.
But if we do not trust, then what do we have?
Very good. Well, turning back to Theala, I will say, I was going to ask you to help me do something completely insane, but as it turns out now, we're on our way to do a bit of a reconnaissance mission. Something that I think you could help with us greatly. You wouldn't mind.
You know, for you, Pony, I can take a detour.
And by all means, take your time to pray, and let me know when you're ready to go.
Okay. And she just kind of nods, and then she goes, and she kind of sits before the statue of the Queen of Ravens and just kneels and just kind of just is silent as far as you guys can tell for a few moments, you know, and then without word or indication of anything, just gets up and turns around and walks up directly to this ASMR that she doesn't know, and very much so saunters in his face, and then just gets kind of just a little too close and says, Major Thiala Aloro, and puts out his hand, but she says so in a very kind of direct way, and puts out her hand.
I am enchanted. My name is Halifax, and this young fellow, and I'll look to my shoulder, and appearing on my shoulder, sort of emerging out of the cloak, will be a small white raven.
Slick.
This here is Tobias.
You and I have got a different understanding of that name, Kyle. If
I'm sorry.
only his
No.
name was Toby.
No, it's nothing. It's nothing bad. It's just like a very significant character from an old campaign that Asa and I were in, that our friend Eric DM'd. Tobias and then also character Toby were just very significant characters. So it's
Only reason
really
I bring
funny.
up the Toby is that the character named Toby could turn into a crow.
yeah.
And
Okay.
It was fun stuff. Anyway,
Oh,
that's enough of
anyway,
our past
Yeah.
lives.
right.
So all right. So your familiar appears. You said is a white raven. That's it.
Yes.
That's badass.
She sees. I see the white raven, and with my. It's on your right shoulder.
Yeah.
Okay. I just rub underneath the beak, just scratch underneath the beak a little bit, and just like off to the side, obviously, and just kind of. Her visage kind of softens ever so a little bit with seeing a white raven right there.
All right. So
Enough of that, you.
So I'm gonna say that we have introduced the new characters, and therefore, and I was trying to figure this out. What we've been doing is the preamble to the game. This is the preamble to the episode. We had to do this whole section to get this all figured out, and now that it's all been figured out, we're going to roll the new credits, and this is like the official start.
The last hour and a half has.
Last hour and a half.
the
It's
intro.
sometimes you gotta do a preamble, dude. I'm gonna keep saying the word preamble. Preamble.
Preamble.
And now the preamble's over, and we're gonna run the credits right now.
Sweet.
Okay. And we are back. Thank you so much for sitting through the preamble. I can now say that the name of the game is Winds of War. The name of the episode is Blood Money. And we got some new characters, for sure. We got some new characters.
Where are On and Alton? Bring back On and Alton.
Dude, I don't know.
I know.
Look,
The crowd is going
the
wild. Look at that uproar. They just want On and Alton back. They're like,
want
who are
him so
these
bad.
these Theala and Halifax characters? Man, I should make Eridu's thing just fucking up names left and right, because that's what Asa does.
It's good. It's a good character quirk
And Alton.
for sure.
And Alton, yeah.
All right. So how about your characters kind of get their stuff together? It looked like they were just about ready to go, and how about they start walking down to the harbor, and then you guys can do like a little more of like character getting to know you.
Yeah. So, while we're walking down, if I might inquire a little further, you're a major, is that right?
Yes and no.
And Eridu here was your subordinate.
Is that what you told him?
I told him nothing.
No. He was definitely not my subordinate. He was mine.
Right. So he worked for you.
He was my troop, yes. I take it you haven't spent much time in the military. You don't work for your superiors. You work for the army.
Right. I'm afraid I don't have a lot of experience with armed forces, but I've traveled around a little bit, spoken to people here and there. One thing that I've usually found is when it comes to, if you pardon my meaning, people on your side of the river, they tend to have a homogeneity in their military forces. Eridu is not a drow.
No, he's not.
I merely find that fact curious.
Yes,
How?
it was an odd time.
I don't know. I'm not a recruiter.
Uh,
I get my troops. They're assigned to me, and that's the end of the story. You don't choose your station. You don't choose your friends.
So there's clearly more to the story that I know and you do not. My father got me into the rank, or into the service in the first place. He made lots of dealing with the drow, and put himself into a position of authority and power to which he used to no end to his own means. You and I, Thalia,
Theala.
I said that.
Just call me Grim. You and I have worked together too long, Pony, for you to call me by any formal name.
We worked, in a sense, directly for my father.
I work
That's why.
for the government of the Drow and no one else.
Yes. That's why I left. When the government started to allow my father to push his own agenda, it wasn't a thing that I could handle any longer.
Well, governments come and go. The mission, it maintains the same.
This is true.
It's curious that a non-drow elf had significant push in the drow military and government, especially your father.
This is what happens when you align yourself very closely with a powerful priestess. He proved himself to be a very valiant warrior, something that the drow find very respectable. He caught the eye of a powerful priestess, as I said, and through her influence was able to push some of his own agenda.
You know, Eridu, perhaps you should become a bard. You're quite the storyteller.
Do you mean to say that you do not believe the stories I tell?
Oh, not at all. It's not that I don't believe the stories that you tell, it's just that the stories are fanciful. A little embellishment here and there wouldn't go amiss. Something to give the story a bit of pizzazz. Surely there should be more to it. Your father and the priestess having an illegitimate love child, a poisoning at a wedding, perhaps. You know, something to spice the story up a little.
There's
Most children are illegitimate, little one. That is not a controversy in our lands.
Oh my. Well, it appears despite your appearance of regimentation, perhaps it is my society that is most constrained by societal concerns. I should wish to visit your land sometime. I collect stories for wherever I can. I enjoy listening to them and learning more about them. Your people intrigue me.
You will find my people less regimented as they are cutthroat. A standing army is a standing army, and one must be regimented. But the rest are used to a more dangerous daily life.
Perhaps it is that a more outwardly dangerous life leads to a better mental well-being. I find that the machinations and scheming, subconscious and subliminal, that's the word I'm looking for, maneuverings and intentions, agendas, they can get very wearing on a mind and on a soul. It is a kind of threat that one finds difficult to evade. I'm not saying that your people and your home was without its dangers. I'm merely ruminating on the pleasures to be able to see an enemy coming, see a dagger before you, rather than it falling into your back.
In that is a advantage that I had seen after joining than before. It has been less trying to only worry about the enemies in front of you. You are correct.
Perhaps Eridu should become a bard, and I shall become a soldier.
Halifax, you mentioned that you have trained in magic. What have you learned?
I've learned a great deal from a variety of sources. People where I come from are usually encouraged to dabble. I became a little obsessed. I could not get enough of it. There's very few in the way of great wizards, at least nowadays. They seem to concern themselves with, as I mentioned, political maneuvering. And so someone to concentrate purely on magic is rare. I wish to be just like the stories and heroes of old, someone who knows their field thoroughly. I will confess that I am nearing the peak of my people's capabilities. It was this excuse that I used to take leave of the place. Now, don't get me wrong, I am by no means the most powerful wizard to come out of that city, but I'd learned all that I wished to learn. And so now I'm traveling about, seeing what other magics are hidden away. There are stories, Eridu, of great, wonderful books, tomes, walls festooned with sigils and runes ancient and wondrous to behold, and the magics contained therein. Oh, there lies a challenge. Finding those, harnessing them. That is the game.
And right as you finish that, Thiala walks up to you and puts kind of brushes your cheek a little bit and says, "Maybe it is you who should be the bard." And just kind of like gets very close and then backs off a little bit and continues walking down.
As she sort of walks ahead a little bit, I'm going to turn to Eridu and just sort of nudge.
So Josh is going to seduce all the characters now? Is that what's going on?
I'll give him a wink.
Yes. Tobias will just give a little squawk, and I'll roll my shoulder and just send him away to his pocket dimension again. Away, Tobias. We're busy here.
Dude, stop instant buzzkill. You're totally getting in the way, man.
So yeah,
you guys thought Eridu was free loving, huh?
Yeah. Eridu's meant to be the slut. Come on.
Yeah.
Nah, just for work.
So while we're picking
Just
our way
out of the
through the
clock.
town, are there any significant things that we see or pick up or anything, or is it just like a normal stroll down towards the docks?
Well, going toward the docks, you're definitely going through the part of the town that if you're let's see, Eridu is the only character who was around during the time of like episode 3. So episode 3 was really like
And I regret it, man. That was not a good episode.
It was not a good episode for Eridu, and he got caught up in it, And
no, I was talking about Star Wars. Sorry.
Asa, stop it.
I know nobody should talk about Star Wars.
Just stop right now. But so back in that episode, that was pretty much like the height of Twin Harbor being hit by the drug epidemic. So it's like you still got the drugs around, Sapphire Dream has not been eradicated from the city by any stretch of the imagination, but the problem is not as bad as it was, or at least it's not as visible as it was. Where before it was not uncommon to be walking by an alley and then just see a pair of feet sticking out from the alley, and you're not really sure if that person is dead or just like completely fucked up on Sapphire Dream. It's like you're going through the parts of town that back then were hit the hardest by this, but it looks like it's a little healthier, Like there's actually people out.
Gentrified.
Well, not gentrified, not quite, but it's definitely, it looks more like business is back to usual, and people are just doing their thing. The other thing that you notice just looking around is the presence of guards. They are kind of like everywhere, And if you're not seeing the ones that are heavily armored, that are guarding like passageways through the city, then you're seeing ones that actually more have excuse me, they have more of a plain clothes look, like plain clothes police, just like people like kind of hiding. If you look at these people for long enough, then you see the outline of like a sword scabbard, through their cloak or something. There's
if you know what you're looking for,
presence.
You can tell a cop or a soldier or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Super easy to pick out, just by pure like the way that they look and the way that they stand.
And especially Eridu and Thiala would have a very easy time just taking a look through the crowd and seeing that there is a huge presence of guards in this area of town. Other than that, there's not much going on. It's just like the city is hustling and bustling on its own pace and not really paying you much mind. Of course, the guards are, but the guards are paying everyone a lot of mind.
Certainly seems to be a lively presence about. It's lovely to see. I'd heard some things about Twin Harbor of late. I travelled here with a caravan of people, travelling here to see how much it had decayed. It's good to see some life coming back to the place.
You came from Elysium. I'm curious. How are things going? Losing my accent. Oh. How are things going when it comes to the assassination of
Taladris.
Taladris? Yes. Okay, I was looking at the notes myself right now.
Yes. Ambassador Taladris being an ambassador did not help when news came that he was being given a funeral procession rather than a welcome home party. It was not well received. It's something that I don't get terribly involved with in those circles. It mostly hit the higher ups, so to speak. I'm not quite sure if you've got a certain name for the upper classes here, but yeah, so it certainly created a shift. People would talk about it a lot. A lot of people lost their jobs, lost their standing. A lot seemed to hinge on that man. A lot of things in our noble circles shifted, changed. Some priorities also. The city itself, just like any other city, it lived on, it moved on. While there are some that may consider the fact that we have celestial blood running through our veins, that we are somehow above mortal life. But the truth is, especially in Celestia surrounding Elysium, it's just like Twin Harbor. People go to work, they shop, they live, they play. We have some of the finest bards you have ever heard. There's one in particular who I've not heard from in quite a while. I'd heard a rumor, but I'd already taken my leave of the place by the time that rumor started circulating. Have you ever heard of the bard Okram Bawile?
I had known Akram personally.
Really? I did hear a rumor that he had unfortunately passed, but as these things do, that rumor was superseded by the news of Taladris being killed some months later. It was not taken easily, the idea of Okram being dead, but there were whispers throughout Celestia that perhaps this was just a coup, a cover-up, that Okram wasn't really dead. He was a member of a noble house, you see, and his death would have led to a few strained relationships. I must admit, I was hopeful that I'd find him here, hidden in some cavern somewhere, weaving tales.
I wish I could tell you that the rumors of his death were greatly exaggerated.
Oh.
But they were not.
It is a great shame.
You're getting closer to being part of Akram's circle than you know. Emily was his betrothed.
No.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
says a voice from nowhere.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh,
Wall just
yeah.
breaks down, the Kool-Aid guy pops in. Boom! What are you gonna do with that?
Huh. So, Okram was quite the gentleman about town.
Was he well respected in Twin Harbor? Did he reach heights of aristocracy and government?
No, but he definitely did what he did, or did what he could to stand up for those who were not able to fight for themselves.
Such nobility. A bard such as that, he could weave amazing tales. I would be enraptured whenever he deigned to visit our little pokey corner of Celestia. Oh, what a shame. But still, it is good to meet someone who has actually spoken to the man. Oh, I thought, what about you, Theala? Did you ever manage to meet any great bards in your travels? Any great storytellers?
Nope, that's not the kind of bard I am.
You're a bard yourself.
There are many kinds of bards. The ones that you know are of lore and grandiosity. Are entertainers. There are other kinds of bards who are leaders and who are delvers into knowledge and understanding. I am a leader. I too grew up in nobility, and my focus as a child was that of knowledge and understanding, and as an adult, as that of tactics.
Indeed. Well, it seems that I know more of your youth and upbringing, Theala, than I do of Eridu, despite the fact that I've known Eridu for quite a few minutes longer than you. What about yourself, Eridu? Tell me about your parents. You mentioned your father. Was it a loving relationship?
No.
Ah. I did not mean to push. I do apologize.
You are a curious collector of information. It is fine. There are some things I just do not talk about. That is one of them.
Perhaps a song to pass the time. Or riddles.
I think we've almost reached our quarry. Perhaps we should get into the mentality of tactic and figure out what we're going to be doing.
And in fact, you have. That was some very good character exposition. Got to make time for the new characters to put the information out there, and at least some of it. More will come up when it is relevant, I'm sure. I really love the part where Hilofax is like a huge fan of Akram's. That's great. That is so great. Oh my gosh. So anyhow, your characters round the bend, and you are at the docks, the huge complex of docks. You guys have gone to the west one, because there's two of them. That's why it's called Twin Harbor. So you've gone to the west one, and before you, there is the Tranquility, resplendent in the afternoon sun. Flags gleaming. The deck is freshly swabbed. You can see the familiar faces of the crew on there. As you get closer, there's what's it called, the gangplank, or the thing that connects the ship to the dock. Walking down that, there is a large dragonborn. He's got this intense, bulky frame about him, and he, recognizes Eridu in the lead, and gives you a hail. And Eridu, you recognize him as Malcolm. Can you say the last name for me, Josh?
I don't even.
It's Reg something. It's like kind of a complicated one. Regthanol. Regthanol. Malcolm Regthanol.
I know him as Malcolm. That's good enough for me.
You know him as Malcolm.
Regthanol or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll come up and do the dagger check. And Malcolm, it is good to see you again.
Good to
These
see you
are
again too.
The companions I travel with.
Ah, yes.
This is Halifax, and this is well, I call her Grim, but I wouldn't recommend you do that.
Very well. What is your name, then? No one's gonna say Theala. Come on, someone say Theala. Just help me out
Oh,
here.
sorry, I
Yeah.
got.
Okay.
So she walks up to, I walk up to Mahom and just kind of size him up and down and kind of see that he's a red dragonborn
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of go and put her hand out
Mm-hmm.
and say, Major Theala Oloro.
A pleasure to meet you, Major Theala.
Yeah, and she gives him a solid grip.
Word. He looks a little shocked by it, and but doesn't say anything, and then he goes over to Halifax. Pleasure to meet you, Halifax.
Enchanted.
Uh,
My name is Halifax. I assume that you're aware of our task.
Yes, I've been in contact with Emily. There honestly is more to figure out about the job, but we've got a little ways to sail, and therefore a little ways to figure out our plan. But I know the details.
Very
This
good.
is, and then he gestures behind him to the beautiful ship and says, "This is the Tranquility. Welcome."
That is a beautiful ship.
Thank you. I've kept it well.
I'd say. This is wonderful. I did hear, and forgive me, my companions Eridu and Theala here were speaking of someone who I knew of where I used to live. I did hear that a ship probably about the size of this one, perhaps a bit bigger, was crewed by Okram Bawile. I would occasionally get stories I would filtering back. Oh, I would sure love to see that ship. But this one is fine.
Certainly. He looks a little bemused, but he doesn't want to. It seems like he doesn't
I
want
think-
to get into the Okrim thing right now.
Him and Eridu probably share a look.
Yeah, definitely. They share a look, and he says, "Please, let me give you the tour." And he takes you guys up to the ship, and I'm afraid that is where I kind of want to end it because